Hey guys, how's it going? Mr. Lobach here from Teacher's Place. I hope everyone's having an excellent summer. I know as a teacher, everyone's probably relaxing somewhere on the beach, in a different country, and just letting your worries float away. No school to worry about, no grades to worry about, no report cards to worry about. Everything is calm. Except there's only about a month left before school starts. So I guess if you're here for this video, you're working on deciding whether or not you want to be a supply teacher, an LTO, or get a permanent contract finally and cement yourself in whatever board you choose to do. So today I'm here to talk to you about the differences between supply work and LTO. Before I get started with the content, if you enjoy these videos and you want to see more just like them, please hit the subscribe button and the like button because it does help out a lot. Thank you. So for those of you who haven't seen my previous videos or are new to this channel, I have worked as a supply teacher, I have worked as an LTO, and I have actually worked as a permanent teacher as well. And I'm here to speak to you on my experience of this year working and transitioning from a supply teacher to an LTO. So in 2021 and a little bit of 2022, I was working as a supply teacher. I was working all over York Region District School Board, and then I transitioned into working as an LTO, which is a long-term occasional contract. I was covering for a teacher who had injured their shoulder and was unable to come in because they weren't able to sleep. So my contract that was supposed to end in March and started in January actually finished off the entire year. So I worked in that LTO position from the beginning of January until June 30th, the last day of school. And I absolutely loved it. It was a grade 5 classroom, and I'm sure some of my students are watching it right now. And if you are, hello, I loved having you in my class, whoever's watching it. And I hope to see you guys again soon. If not next year, then maybe grade 7 or 8, who knows? Maybe I'll transition into high school work. So, before I became an LTO this specific year, I was an LTO my previous year and the year before that, but my first year I worked as a permanent teacher in the UK. I had a permanent classroom, I was a homeroom teacher, it was an English classroom, however, so it was a little bit different to me working in French immersion in Canada, but very similar to working as an LTO. Well, part of working as an LTO is you basically have the same responsibilities as a permanent teacher. You are responsible for the well-being of your students, just like any teacher would be, whether you're a supplier or permanent or an LTO. You're responsible for daily planning. You're responsible for your long-range plans. You're responsible for assessments. You're responsible for report cards. You're responsible for duty. Everything that a permanent teacher is responsible for, you are also responsible for. And coming into an LTO halfway through the year, it's a little bit difficult, I would say, to transition from those responsibilities of supply teacher, which granted are a lot simpler because you're not responsible for the planning, you're not responsible for the assessments really. The transition is a little bit difficult. It's not easy to transition from one class to another and having almost no responsibility technically to being fully responsible for an entire classroom. Luckily, I had a great classroom full of students who I absolutely loved. They were very respectful. They were a lot of fun to teach. I taught 2 grade 5 classes. I taught them French, science, social studies, and art for one of the classes. The English teacher would cover the other art class. And the transition was honestly extremely smooth. The teacher that I was working with, he had been a teacher for a very long time. We sat down and chatted for quite a while. And if you are a permanent teacher looking to take time off for whatever reason, make sure that you are leaving your LTO or you are leaving your supply with a good amount of planning and a good amount of prep prior to it. As much as you can, obviously. There's extenuating circumstances for everyone, but it just makes the transition a lot smoother. And it helps you as a teacher because now you know that your students are in good hands, and it also helps the teacher who's transitioning into your position because now they have a stable footing to stand on. So I knew exactly for the first 10 to 20 days exactly what I was going to do and exactly where I could branch off from. And the teacher also told me what they hadn't done yet, so I knew what I needed to cover, which is also extremely important. You don't want to be going over topics twice, but you also don't want to be jumping the gun and skipping over topics that they haven't covered yet. So the transition is a little bit tough going from supply to LTO in the middle of the year. In the beginning of the year, it's actually quite simple. You just treat it as your own permanent classroom. The previous year when I taught, I started off in the beginning as an LTO, and you decorate the classroom how you want, you set up the classroom how you want, you know your students right from the get-go, and it's fairly smooth sailing. The LTO is transitioning in the middle of the year, a little bit more difficult, but if you're a competent teacher, then you should be able to handle it yourself. We talked about the transition, talked about the responsibilities. There is, however, a upside to having more responsibility, and obviously that is your paycheck at the end of the day. There is a difference between supply, LTO, and even permanent in terms of your pay. And we're going to talk about that right now. So as a supply in York region, which I can speak on, other school boards and other countries and provinces I can't sadly speak on. In Wire DSB, there's a set rate for supply. It's somewhere in the $250-ish a day range. So if you're working every day as a supply, you'll be making $250, $250, a little bit more. As an LTO, it's a little bit different because you actually fall under the same pay scale as a permanent teacher. So let's say you've been working for 1 year and your salary is set at $54,000, hypothetically. You will be making that $54,000 just like a permanent teacher would if you're an LTO. However, instead of making it in 12 months stretched out, you make it in 10 months. So you're not paid over the summer as an LTO, but you do make more per paycheck technically because they condense your salary. So let's say $54,000 a year, a permanent teacher were to be making, let's say $1,500 every 2 weeks. You, as a LTO, might be making $1,700, just to account for that gap where you don't make that 2 months paycheck. So you do make more per month, technically. Overall, throughout the year, it's the same amount of money. So you need to be able to plan for a summer where you're not necessarily working. So that extra money that you make, you put it aside, you don't touch it, or you invest it, you do whatever you want with it, just to make sure that you have a nest egg for the summer. That's number one. Number two, as an LTO and as a supply teacher, at least in Canada, you do qualify for EI, employment insurance. If you're an LTO or a supply teacher, every summer you can apply for that, and you'll be making roughly about $2,000 a month from the government because you pay into your employment insurance. So whatever money you've paid in, you'll get at least some of it back in the form of EI. You apply every week or two, you fill out a questionnaire. As long as you're in Canada, as long as you remain there and you're a resident of there, you will get a check for, I believe it's around $500 every week technically, so $2,000 a month. As a permanent teacher, because you are paid over the summer, because again, LTOs and supplies are not, you do not qualify for that. Technically, if all you care about is money, LTOs do technically make more money because we get a condensed salary, and then you also get your EI at the end of for the summer. You could say that technically an LTO makes about $4,000 more than a permanent teacher. Now, there is a downside to being an LTO or a supply teacher and getting EI. The downside is when summer comes, whatever benefits you have, so your dental, your health, is completely gone. For Canada, for Ontario, the board pays for your benefits if you're an LTO or if you're a permanent teacher. So unless you're getting some sort of special coverage, the standard coverage is paid for. As a supply, they cover a portion of your benefits, and actually recently, I believe that they're doing a 90-10 program. So you pay 10% and the board pays 90% of whatever your standardized cost of care is. So that means you get dental, you get massage, chiropractor, healthcare, anything and everything. It's a fairly comprehensive package. And then if you want to upgrade your packages to include more in certain categories, then you would have to pay for that out of pocket as an LTO, as a permanent teacher, or as a supply. But again, the board mostly covers all of it, and they cover basically all of it as an LTO or a permanent teacher. However, in the summer, because you're off contract as a supply teacher, and because you're off contract as an LTO, you no longer have access to your benefits. So if you want to get a massage, clean your teeth, get medication, all of that is at full cost to you, versus as a permanent teacher, because you're still under contract at the beginning of the summer, you have your benefits. So whatever you need, if you need to go get a massage, if you need to go get medication, dental work, whatever, you still have that coverage. So it depends on what you want to balance out. If you can get a permanent contract, you need to decide whether the healthcare and the dental care is worth it compared to the extra $4,000, let's say, that you would get for your EI. And that's a decision that you should make because it is important. Personally, I would choose the healthcare option, even though $4,000 would be nice to have. It's nice to have your salary spaced out throughout the summer as well, so you're still getting a greater paycheck than you would from EI, and you're not having to think about kind of financial planning and setting out a nest egg for yourself. And B, it is important to have healthcare. I personally, a couple months ago, chipped my front tooth. I had it chipped years ago, and then finally the crown fell off. And when I went to go get it fixed and get a new front tooth put in, I got a bill for $20. And I'm like, okay, here's $20. And in my head, I'm like, okay, if the bill was $20, it must have been, I don't know, $150 to fix my tooth. So I kind of went along, and then a few weeks later, I submitted a claim for a massage on my insurance. And I saw that the claim for my tooth had been approved, and it was in the total sum of $485. That means that if I didn't have insurance, I would have had to have paid $505 because I paid the $20, and they approved $485 to fix my tooth. An x-ray, a little bit of plaster or whatever it is to fix the tooth, and about a half hour's time, $505. So you have to decide whether or not it is worth it for yourself to take the risk of, I may need something for my healthcare or my dental care, or I'm gonna spend these $4,000, or I'm gonna have these $4,000. So that's up to you. So I think honestly, that's just about it for everything that I can say about the differences between a supply and an LTO and a little bit of a permanent teacher. So whether or not you get a contract for yourself, that's dependent now on a lot of different factors, and hopefully whatever you choose to get, you do. So if you want to stay a supply, go ahead and stay a supply. If you want that LTO contract, go ahead and get that LTO contract. And if you want that permanent contract, start working now for it, because it takes a while depending on what subjects you teach and where you are to get a permanent contract. I do know that now, because of the pandemic and because of teacher burnout, there are a couple more permanent contracts out there. I was offered one last year, like I said, for a 70%. I did turn it down because 70% of a contract means you only get 70% of your salary, which I did not want. If you like this video and if you want to see more content like this, please leave a like and please subscribe. It does help the channel out. And if you'd like to take a look at my TPT, there's a few new resources out there for virtual field trips in French. There's a couple free ones, including a Quebec free field trip, which I'm sure your class will love. I'd be very pleased if you guys left a review on there, because it means a lot and it does help a lot. Thank you so much and have a great day.